on this talk, I will show you the power, the potential of distributed profiling. So I showed a bit earlier what profiling is about. Well, I'm going to start sharing my screen so that we're all on the same page. No pen here. All right. So I'm assuming that you can see my shared tab. So here is a profile. This is, well, profile from an application, like you will probably have so many. So, but sometimes, or maybe quite often, it depends on what kind of application you're working on. You may want to use within your application HTTP requests to services that you own. And sometimes that can be bottlenecks in your whole overall rendering of your application. So this is like, for example, you want to you're using a service-oriented architecture, and you need to do a lot of sub requests to different microservices, whether directly on the front end for the end user, or because you're doing a lot of processing, like image conversion, video conversion, and stuff like that with different different microservices, because sometimes it can be easier to manage. So the peculiarity here of this profile is that it has 2 external HTTP requests. And so if I click on it, Blackfire already detected that. And here we are, from this small application, is a demo application. It's calling a GitHub API. But just let's consider that these 2 this API.github.com, let's assume that this is a service that we own and that is part of our application. And we found that this using this profile, that it's quite slow for some reason. And we'd like to understand what's going on within this part of the application. So we are on server A here, and the part A of our application. But we want to go further. We want to go up to the other part of our service-oriented architecture. So here we can see 2 calls. Well, we can actually browse the profile, showing that, yeah, we have a curl multi-select here. That's most likely where it's coming from. So, all right, but we don't have those details. So this is where distributed profiling comes into place. So what is it all about? Blackfire is a profiler which supports, for now, 3 different languages: PHP, Python, and Go. At some point during the year, we will also have Ruby. Maybe at some point we will have JavaScript, and so on. So, sometimes an application can be a galaxy of different languages and technologies used. And here, the good thing about distributed profiling is that you can consistently profile the different parts of your application, whatever the language. So let's imagine here that we have a Go application which is running on CLI, which is calling a PHP application but using HTTP, an HTTP request, which itself calls another Go application using CLI. And the first one is calling also a Python application using HTTP. you all manage you all manage everything, or your ops manage everything, tied to everything together. But you want to profile all of them. So it is possible as long as you install the PHP probe. So for PHP, it's a PHP extension. For Python, it will be a pip package. For Go, it's just a call, an import, a regular import of the probe into your code. As long as the probe is installed, and you also preserve HTTP headers, you will be able to cascade this to the profiles. So let me show you an example, a very simple example. Here, this is a cascade example on Blackfire.io. It's an API, and well, we found that it was quite slow to render. We can see that, yeah, it's not that fast. All right, so we want to profile it. Let's do this. I will click this button here to disable aggregation, because I want to just, otherwise it will be way too long to wait for the results. This button here is to explicitly disable the distributed profiling. Of course, this is not what we want to do, because distributed profiling is enabled by default. You don't have anything to do to configure your Blackfire client or anything to activate, to enable the distributed profiling. So let's click now on the profile button. As we could see that the application was a bit slow, so the request is going further and further. Okay, now we have our profile. Our profile is ready, and so we'll have a quick look. All right, we can see here, for the purpose of the demonstration, that it is very simple here. Okay, we still have a small call graph. We can see that we have this cascade controller index section, but now you can see here that it has a link as well with the 200 gets HTTP request. That's the first thing that is interesting. And you can see here on this tab, the propagation tab, that we have 22 requests. So let's click on that. And here we go. This is here an overview of all the cascading profiles made, triggered first by my first request here. So here, and we can see the hierarchy between the different profiles. So here it's quite simple because we mostly call the Blackfire.io/cascade, but you can see here that we actually have another one, cascade.private.blackfire.io. It's a different application, which is also being called. And we could have added different languages here, like a Django application, for example, in Python. And here you will be able to browse all the different profiles, all the different cascading profiles that are tied up together consistently by Blackfire. And another interesting point here is that you have this link each time. So when you click on a profile within the hierarchy, you will see that all its, at least the first the first child shows here a function name with a magnifying glass. So if I click again on this one, which is a bit more complete, you can see that it's coming from here, from index action. So if I click on it, it will Blackfire will zoom in directly to the controller, to the function here, which actually called the second level. And you can, so even if I click on here on the link, it will lead me to the second part, to the second application, and so on and so on. So now with this, you will have a very consistent overview of what's going on within your software-oriented architecture. But you don't have to use microservices all over the place within your single architecture for it to work. Actually, it can also be applications from different architectures, or even different, like one stored in Amazon and another one in a dedicated server somewhere in your office. Because how it does it work? It's that the probes themselves maintain a bond together thanks to parent and child identifiers. So actually, they can be completely parallel calls and sent wherever on the planet. The only thing that is necessary is that we still respect the requirements here, that we need to have the probe enabled, which is if you have installed it in PHP, the PHP extension, you're fine. And you must preserve the HTTP headers, all these HTTP headers, which are mostly the X Blackfire query header, which transports the parent-child identifier, and all the signature, so that Blackfire is able to verify that you're actually authorized to do a profile in production, and you're all granted. And also response headers like X Blackfire response or X Blackfire error, which will be added by the probe to the response, to the HTTP response, to inform the parent and the agent that actually the profile is complete or has an error. The only well, first, before saying that, you may have within your application, so several applications, yes, but you can also have different agents. So remember, maybe you had a quick look at the presentation from Christophe earlier. So Blackfire is divided in two main components. I won't talk about this one here. So the probe, we already discussed about it, and the agent. So the agent here, well, its role is to aggregate, to anonymize, and so on. So you can actually use different agents. You don't have to go through the same agents to be able to do such things, to use distributed profiling. The only thing that is mandatory is that the credentials that are used are part of a global authorization Blackfire profile, not the user profile, I mean. So basically, if I want to do this profile, to profile an application, I need to have access personally to all the applications that are being profiled using this distributed profiling feature. So it's only a matter of permission, not technical restrictions also. So it means that you can have different agents in different data stores, data centers, as long as the credentials has the appropriate corresponds to appropriate permissions. and then you will be able to do this distributed profiling. The last thing I wanted to show about distributed profiling, let's get back on the profile, is here, the recommendations. So recommendations are one of the key parts of Blackfire service, as long as you have a paying plan. It won't be available for free, the free plan. So recommendations will show you, we detected that you're using a sleep function or uSleep function. We detected that you did not activate the PHP preloading. And in my first presentation, I showed different Laravel recommendations. You may have others, like you are loading way too many relationships using Eloquent, for instance. And these recommendations are actually visible in the same hierarchy of the propagation tab here. So if I click here on this one, for instance, I will be then able to understand what's going on here in my call graph. And in the functions tab, when you're on, I clicked on the sub cascades, I will be able here to find, the uSleep is obviously here, function, which corresponded to the recommendation I had. There is also another feature that, I won't cover here, but I will talk about this tomorrow. This feature is the test. So we can do with Blackfire, we can do automated tests and assertions that will be run on every profiles. And actually those tests will also be evaluated per iteration, for each profile, which is linked to the main one. So it makes Blackfire very powerful when it comes to profile of a complex architecture of yours. So it means that you can have very simple applications then with only one PHP FPM process and only one server or whatever. But it can also fit with very complex architecture using even Amazon Lambdas and stuff like that that are calling each other. You can profile and detect bottlenecks even within different applications that are interacting together, and even if you're not only using PHP but also different technologies that are supported by Blackfire. Just a quick note about how you can also do it manually, because most of the process here is automatic, at least for PHP. Everything is done automatically as long as you're using curl or the file get contents, and so different streams, etc. Even SOAP, it will work. But for Go or for Python, it's a different story. You need to add the necessary bits in the request for it to work. So for this, you can also do this manually in PHP. I mean, programmatically. So zooming in a bit. So if you want to do this programmatically, you can use the in PHP the native class. I mean, the built-in class from the Blackfire probe. No need to install the SDK for this. This one is part of the PHP extension. Yeah, here we're checking if the probe is enabled, meaning that the probe has been detected for profile. If a profile is ongoing, then we're taking the main instance. We create the subquery. You can see here well, we add it to the global environment variables. So here we are most likely in PHP CLI process, like imagine an artisan command, for example. And we want that our artisan command, we want to open a sub command or a subscript to delegate it. So we will use like this proc open using the subquery created here. In Python, well, you have different snippets, or in Go, another snippet will depend, mostly depending on the language you're using, but the process will be basically the same, using the same kind of functions, as the different SDKs are consistent together, respecting the standards used in the different languages. So that's why here we have camel case, and here we have snake case, and here upper camel case. But this they always the functions are always called the same way, so that it remains consistent. So here we go. I think I showed you most of what I wanted to show you. Yeah, maybe the last thing. I showed you that using the Blackfire browser extension, you could disable the distributed profiling, maybe because it's way too long to wait for the different applications to respond with a profile. So you want to only reserve your profile to the first query, to the first application. So you can click here, or if you're using the Blackfire CLI command, like with Blackfire run or Blackfire curl, Blackfire curl will do well, obviously HTTP requests, and Blackfire run will be able will allow you to run Blackfire on CLI commands like Blackfire curl, PHP, artisan, something. So you will just need to add the -- no propagation if you want to disable the distributed profiling.